January comes along, and in January, investor purchases as a percentage of home sales were at the lowest point in history other than during the COVID-19 lockdowns.
Mhm.
Most people don't know that. On InvestorLift, we saw a 50% between September and January, 50% decrease in transactions in
Yeah.
90 days.
Mhm.
Insane.
Right.
And what happened January, February, March, and a little bit into April, the wholesaling business got absolutely
Oh, they
hammered,
got clobbered.
clobbered.
Yeah.
I told people last time I was in Phoenix, I said, look, we're good when prices are down here. We're good when prices are up here. We got to be careful is when there's the adjustment.
Yeah.
Because then the adjustment is where we get squeezed.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we went through that squeeze. Luckily, we're in most markets, we're through that squeeze. Phoenix is still in that squeeze, though.
Phoenix is a fun market. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. So some cities are still in that squeeze. East Coast has pretty much made it through, but people got hammered, and all the newbie wholesalers that were able to make money wholesaling just because it was so easy. Like if
Mhm.
you had a heartbeat, you could make hundreds of thousands or wholesaling. Those guys are all gone. I've talked to a lot of other SaaS founders in this industry and people that have coaching programs and
Mhm.
people that just service our industry. Most of them in Q4 and Q1 lost between 60 to 90% of their customer base.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that tells me that 60 to 90% of wholesalers are gone.
So I guess I'm happy to say I'm less than 60% churn.
Yes. Now,
But I experienced some serious churn.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Most guys were in that range. And at InvestorLift, we have 3 different plans,
Mhm.
right? We got a 6K plan, a 36K plan, and a 50K plan.
Mhm.
50K plan, didn't lose anyone. No one's letting go of those seats.
Yeah. Well,
36K
because
plan,
there's a limited number of
yeah,
seats.
yeah,
And
exactly.
if you vacate it, you might
You're
not
not
get
getting
it
it
back.
back. There's a 2-year wait list. You're not.
Yeah.
If you let it go, like you're never getting it back.
Right.
The 36K plan, slight churn.
Mhm.
The 6K plan, 60% churn rates.
Yeah.
We lost 60% of our low end.
Mhm.
Luckily, we were able to replace that and not have any down months. So
Yeah.
we kept revenue growing by actually filling up more of the high end plans.
Mhm.
But other guys were calling me like, dude, like, what are you doing with churn rate now? Like, we're just getting clobbered. I was a little bit more immune because, if you're a company that is selling like real estate data or skip tracing or whatever, that's the first thing people buy when they first start investing. So
Mhm.
you got a lot of noobs
Yeah. You have the
buying your product earlier in the journey.
in their journey, or they're a different season in their
Mhm.
business.
I service the guys that are established, doing deals, and trying to scale up.
Right.
You're not buying a dispo product unless you have deals to sell.
Yeah.
So I'm way later
Mhm.
in the journey, but my entry level plan got clobbered. It got
Right.
absolutely clobbered. And what's interesting is a good percentage are actually now coming back. There's a big reactivation. Last month we had our biggest reactivation rate ever in history. But I think this really shows where the future of wholesaling is going, which I've said many times. I've been saying this for last year. The future of real estate wholesaling is not tens of thousands of real estate wholesalers. It's going to be a small handful of very tech enabled, very tight operations that do insanely high volume.
Mhm.
We're moving to a new era of mega wholesaling. I've been predicting it for years. We built the first mega wholesalers that were doing $1 million, $2 million plus per month.
Mhm.
And in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see the first 100 million a year wholesaler.
Well, we saw this in the realtor industry,
Yeah.
right? And for the longest time, like everyone was a realtor, right? And then over time, it's like, hey, I'm good at generating leads. I am good at marketing. I am good at sales conversion. Mediocre, isn't that? Realtor is not as great in the sales industry, but they're better
Yeah.
at sales, right? They're better at processes. They've got a CRM, not necessarily Salesforce, but they've got a CRM. They've
Mhm.
got a transaction coordinator. They got someone taking care of all the paperwork. And so we went from, you talk about like the haves and have nots, right? We went from like an 80-20, something like that, to like a 90-10 or a
Yeah.
96-4, right? Like the handful of mega agents are doing a
All the way.
huge percentage of the transactions.
Yep.
And we're seeing the same thing here because the cost, I mean, the barrier to entry for the most part to get into wholesaling is pretty low, right?
Yep.
Pretty low. But the amount of effort to get that deal and to repeat that process, whereas you got a guy over here, maybe like an Eric Brewer or a Jimmy Vreeland, right? Like they've got an operation,
Yeah.
it's on autopilot, right? Like every stage in the funnel, not the funnel, every stage in the wholesaling process is buttoned down.
Yeah.
How do you compete against a juggernaut, right? And I think you're right. I think we saw in the realtor industry from like all these realtors in free for all to like a few mega agents, all these wholesalers in free for all, these mega wholesalers.
Yeah. And we're seeing it in the data.
Mhm.
You look at any metric, we're breaking every metric right now.
Yeah.
Offer volume, number of leads generated, total assignment fees earned. We're breaking all the metrics, and teams are now breaking metrics, having their biggest months. A lot of people still think that the wholesaling industry is like struggling. No, the buyers are back. The buyers are actually buying more than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
We pumped over 5,000 homes last month. They're back, and what happened is all those noobs are gone, and big guys like you and big guys that have really tight operations are now picking up all that market share, and they have way less competition. So all that market share that, all the sharks were, well, not all the sharks, all the small fish were fighting for.
Mhm.
Now the sharks are coming in and they're grabbing all that market share. So if you're watching this and you're like, you run a big operation, now is the time to double down.
Yeah.
Go grab all that market share.
Yeah. Now